So for this next topic, what I want you to do is just try and imagine yourself logging into your computer at home. Typically what happens, you type in your username and password, you either get your access granted or you get denied, and then eventually you either get locked out of your system or you get into your computer. Now, we tried to emulate something similar, a little more simplified here in front of you. What I've done is I've created a password variable which stores the password 12345. Don't ever use that password. And then a variable to store whatever the user types in to compare against that password. And then a simple Boolean access granted to decide whether we've currently got the right password or not. Then below that, all I do is simply ask the user for their password, and then I compare it against the original password value. And if they match, we set access granted to true. And then below that, we just display a message depending on that access granted value. If access was granted, we display woot, access granted. Otherwise, we display the message denied. And from there on, we get to run our program. And what we'll see, once it actually runs, it's taking its time. There we go. So if I just type in gibberish, we'll get the message denied. Now, of course, real password programs don't actually work like this. We usually get multiple tries. And usually we make, let's say, 3 attempts, and if we get it within those 3 attempts, we get access. If we don't get it within those 3 attempts, we get shut out of the computer. Now we're not going to lock them out of the computer in this case, but we will either give them access or we won't. And we're going to give them 3 tries. So how do I actually do that? Well, I'm essentially going to have to repeat all of this code identically, one after another. So let's put in a message here that says, okay. Let's add a quick little else case to this first. It says else, let's say, console.writeLine, incorrect password. Okay. Now we need to repeat this code, so let's repeat this code. Let's take all of this stuff, and just like that. Now the problem is, even if we get it right, it's still going to ask us for the password again. So how do we limit that? Well, we only want to ask them for the password again if they weren't previously granted access. So we can solve that problem with a simple if statement. So just above here, we could say, well, if access granted is equal to false, which means we don't have access yet, then ask them for the password again. So we have our simple code here. Let me just get rid of this extra line. Now that'll give us 2 tries. Of course, if we want a 3rd try, we simply need to ask for it all one more time. And then of course, we now have 3 attempts. Now we've almost tripled our code. It's quite a bit of extra code, but it'll work. We run our program, and we should get exactly what we expect. Please enter your password. Let's put in some gibberish. Incorrect password. Please enter your password. Let's put in Bob. Incorrect password. Please enter your password. Let's put in the actual password this time. And woot, access granted. And the program ends. So this is fine. We can build our programs like this. Now what if we want to give the user more options? What if we want to give them, say, 10 tries instead of 3 tries? Well, we have to repeat that code again. Now, I don't know about you, but not only does this clutter up the program, make it unreadable, but it's also a lot more work, and we want to limit that as much as possible. So we need a way to simplify this, and the way we do this is we use something called a loop. A loop is nothing more than repeated steps. So imagine we wanted to repeat all of these steps inside of this if statement more than once, and we want to repeat it exactly the same way every single time. That is a repetition, or one iteration of a loop. So one complete cycle. Now, C# offers a number of different ways of doing this, as do most programming languages. The first one we're going to talk about is something called a counted loop. In the future modules, we're also going to discuss conditional loops. A counted loop is a loop in which we know exactly how many times we want the code to repeat. Well, in this password program, we want that code to repeat exactly 3 times. In the next module, we're going to show exactly the syntax we need to do that.